welcome to Words Unwritten, where we talk about how to create a greater impact in your world and your work through thoughtful communication and rebellious mindset. I'm your host, Nino, writer, poet, copywriter, ghostwriter, and 1,000 other things, but mostly I'm the creator of the Writer's Rebellion. So, to all the artists, entrepreneurs, rebel writers, and changemakers out there, let's get into it. Today, I'm welcoming my friend, Catherine Hurley. She is a motorsports entrepreneur working to to make motorsports a more inclusive and accessible place. Good morning. How are you?
Salutations. I'm doing swell. So I guess, how about you?
I'm doing great. Okay, so since that was just like a really little mini intro, why don't you tell the people who you are, what you're about, what your business is, what you do, all that jazz.
Yeah, as a standard ADHDer, my business does not just have one direct process. So I always talk about my business in two sectors. So the first sector, the reason that I started the business in the first place was I am a dirt bike coach and not like a motocross coach, right? We don't go get air, which is what everybody thinks about. But it's a very tiny niche of dirt biking where basically we go hiking through the mountains on dirt bikes. So we like drag our bikes up mountains and stuff and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's called hard enduro if you guys ever want to go look it up. Um, it's a very physical sport. It's very like emotionally taxing and everything. But the introduction to that is just trail riding. And when I first got into dirt biking, I like I came from the road racing world and I did really well in that. And so when my friend was like, Catherine, if you want to get really good at this, you got to get good at dirt biking. I was like, cool. So I sunk my bike underwater, popped the chain, and crashed like 7 times in a mile. And all my friends were standing at the edge of the puddle, like pointing and laughing, as is the rite of passage to anybody's first time on a dirt bike. Um, and I was like so enraged by it. I didn't understand why I couldn't ride a dirt bike, but I could ride a motorcycle really well. So it wasn't until we made it to the top of the mountain and I saw the gorgeous views and then this thunderstorm rolled in and it was this big like experience out in nature that you would have never gotten outside of like riding a dirt bike that I was like, this is what it's about. And it's so incredible and amazing to experience something like that. And I want other people to be able to experience that without the frustration and rage that came from trying to figure out how to actually do it. Um, so I started researching like dirt bike coaches because in road racing, you just find a coach. If you can't ride well, you just go find a coach. So I was like, I'll do the same thing. But the nearest coach was 19 hours away one way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I had the like advantage. I forget the word that I'm looking for, but I had like a the resources that not a lot of other people did where I could go that distance and I could get proper coaching and I trained with a lot of like really high end people in the sport and then I brought that knowledge back home and a lot of women started reaching out to me. They saw it and they were like amazed by the things like they had never seen a woman race before, some of them. So I started just like making my social media about helping those people. And that kind of grew and grew and grew that way. And then through that, in order to start the business, I had to get sponsorships because I couldn't pay for the business myself because my entire job was writing. So I started reaching out to companies and it hadn't worked before when I was just a road racer. But now that I had an aim to help get more women confident and comfortable on dirt bikes going through trails and how to like think and process through the problems that would come up on the trails, like down logs or rock gardens, stuff like that. All of a sudden companies like wanted in on it. And so there was a lot of knowledge and know-how that kind of went into it, a lot of trial and error, and then a lot of coaching from those businesses too about what they liked, what they didn't like. That helped me put together a program to help motorsport entrepreneurs, is what I call them, build their own program like I did to generate its own income, but then to like jumpstart it from sponsors to help build up the community. Because if we can get individuals like me sponsored and paid for, then we have more money to spend on companies in the industry so that those companies have more money to spend on the clubs and the events and get more publicity, which makes it more worldwide, which gets more riders in it. And it becomes this huge, never ending cycle. So I have a lot of things going on.
So you got the motor inch, Where you do like the clinics and
Yep.
like that in-person stuff, and then you have your course and
Yes.
your mentorship program that teaches people how to get these sponsorships and grow their own motorsports business essentially.
Yes.
And stuff, which is amazing. It's really awesome. And like, if you happen to be a motorsports athlete or motorsports entrepreneur, Catherine takes such a real, like such a savvy marketing perspective in this, and her own way of like that conscious marketing that works at like connection, like authentic connection, instead of just buy me, buy this, do that, like we're all so used to. And like, this is a place where we talk about conscious copywriting, and things that are deeper than just like this surface level sleazy marketing that um and so Catherine is such an amazing marketer in that way. So just wanted to give you a little shout out on that. So
Thank you.
with your journey on this, I know motorsports is a very male dominated industry, and you've received a lot of pushback in your messaging, because you're talking about doing this in a way that's not a typical way of going about gaining sponsorships and gaining access to racing and learning racing, like you said, where you had to drive 19 hours to get to somebody to train you, but you're making it accessible so anybody can learn how to do this type of riding, or the type of riding that works well with them, right? Like
Hmm.
that calls to them. And so like, what is some of the things that you want to change within your industry um after like receiving all this backlash and all this pushback, when you're trying to create such a shift in the industry and receiving so much pushback from that? What is like your end goal here?
Yeah. So this kind of harkens back to basically, okay, we're gonna paint the pretty picture. The end goal is that everybody's having fun. I want everybody to have fun and enjoy what they do. Not everybody wants to race and be a serious racer and like wants to run a 6 hour brutal race that requires you to go to the hospital afterwards. Like there was a race that just happened yesterday where only one person finished in 6 hours and he immediately had to be rushed to the hospital and then raced the next day.
Oh my
So,
God.
like, not everybody wants to do that. They're not
Yeah.
all crazy like me. you know, um, and there are people that genuinely just want to take all day to ride with their friends to go to the top of the mountain. But for some reason, if you express that, you're like not good enough or you're cheating. And it's the
Your
same.
posers or your
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's the same way in like the e-bike industry. So part of the other side of like what we do is my significant other and their three brothers all run an e-bike shop in California. So like when we first started that, it became very much so like e-bikes are cheating. And like you're not getting the same exercise as you would, blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but it's not illegal to have fun. It's not illegal to do the thing that you want to do. So when I started the clinics, the biggest pushback I got was people wanted to see my race results. It's like, it doesn't matter what my race results are because I'm not training racers. I don't want to train racers. I want to train people who just want to feel more comfortable. I want to train people who want to learn how to think through what they see and not just send it. I want to teach people how to simply have the skills to be safer at what they do because it's a dangerous sport if you don't know what you're doing. You're climbing mountains. There are cliffs and bears and who knows what else, like tree spears. Like there's so much stuff that could happen out there that
Oh
it's not
yeah.
about racing or going fast. It's about like enjoying the process. And if you're too tired to even make it a third of the way and you're dragging your bike up a mountain, that's not fun. And then you never want to do it again. So through a lot of the pushback and like, well, you're a girl, so people will pay you, and it's like it's there's a lot of misconceptions and weird things that happen for some reason that like people are making excuses for themselves to get out of the work, if that makes sense. So like on the sponsorship side of things, when they say, well, you're a girl so you can get sponsored because one out of every 62,000 riders is a girl, it's like you're making an excuse for you, not for me. Because
Yeah. Right, because
Because
you're seeing like that minor obstacle that you're perceiving as an obstacle, and you're like, oh, that's the reason why I shouldn't even try.
yeah.
And so yeah, you're teaching people how to overcome that, and just like see the wall and find a way around the wall, under the wall, over the wall, just like make your way around it and ignore the wall.
Yeah, and the other one is social media. It's like, yeah, Kevin had 300 followers and he got a $10,000 check within 2 weeks of trying to get sponsorship. Like, Zach
Yeah.
Phillips has 600 followers and he has the biggest names in the industry backing his program now. I have 6,000 followers, which is more than most people. And I started a business off of it. Like, there's so much that can happen with, you don't need a social media following, but everybody thinks it's the only thing that exists
Mhm.
anymore. And the fun part about it is like, because everybody has a social media, it means nothing anymore. So now it's about, how do you connect with people outside of your social media? Yeah, your social media gets you eyeballs, but do you engage with those eyeballs? Do they actually want to hear from you? Do they message you? Do they meet you in person?
Right.
Because
Are you
that's where,
creating that connection?
yeah, that's where it all stems from. So even if you have 500 followers, if those people care about you, that's what matters way
Mhm.
more than having a million. So,
Yeah, actually, that's a great segue into talking about like that mindset shift because, you know, you've probably had to do a lot of mindset work, not only with like the mindset shifts just to get your brain to be like, I see these obstacles and getting up this mountain and I can find my way to overcome it. But then also
mhm.
the entrepreneur mindset shifts with starting a business that's gaining that gets, I mean, because I know you've gotten some really aggressive threats on social media. Girl, you have sent me some. I'm like, oh my God, get a freaking police officer involved. Like you've gotten some wicked threats. And so like, how do you like overcome those mindset hurdles in just keeping going to get to those end results?
I mean, I know that I don't have the mindset that most people have, but when, like, I've gotten death threats before, and I've had let's think about this for a second. And this is why I think I have the mindset that most people don't have, is that I received a death threat and the first thing I did was laugh. And I sent it to a bunch of other people who also proceeded to laugh, because I'm receiving death threats for getting more women into motorsports. I'm
Yeah.
receiving death threats for helping riders get paid. Let's let's think about that for a second. Like, if
Right.
you think about it, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've
Yeah.
had
Well, and
like,
it's like those people are just so stuck in this scarcity mode
yeah,
that they just can't that if you're involved in it now, that means there's not enough for me and then you just need to die so I can, fix my dream, like get my dream sorted out here like
and it's tough. Like, we actually were the title sponsors of one of the biggest races in the United States this year. It's called Battle of the Goats. And we were camped right next to, we were touching the media team and the quote unquote media specialist. We were there when nobody else was supposed to be there, right? Like, they say nobody comes through the gate in the next 3 days. And then the media team rolls in and there's these people camped there. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm a media person and I see people camped there and there's not supposed to be anybody there, I'd be like, "Who are these people?" And I would go up there and I would ask them a bunch of questions. We didn't get any questions. And then as more of the media team rolled in, they blocked us off from their camp. And then throughout the entire weekend, we didn't get any questions. We had to fight to get tagged in all of the posts as the title sponsor. We had to fight to like even get mentions as the presenting sponsor. We had to constantly push against the media team to shout out a brand that was supporting the community, the event, and everything else. Like, the landowner had to ask their boss to tell them to tag us. And then after that, we had to message them on social media and like make a public thing about like, hey, you guys aren't doing this. And then they did it. So and then right after that weekend, they made a podcast about how, um, like, people need to not fight each other in the community. We need to be supporting one another, and like there's always space for more competition and stuff like this. And it's one of those things of like a lot of people talk and not a lot of people show it. And I think that that's really important to distinguish. Is I had this conversation with a friend lately, is like you can talk all you want, but until you do the thing, you are not helping the cause. You're not helping the process. Like I'm teaching people to get sponsorships so that they can teach other people to get sponsorships. Like because I don't know about you guys, but I can't handle the entire world coming to me to like learn sponsorship. And it's the same way with coaching, right? There's always space for more coaches because we can't handle the entire world. So yeah, I know students come to my class, they learn how to coach, now they want to go start their own coaching business. That's fine. That's exciting. Awesome. Message me, I'll help you. Like when we go through that way and we start sharing each other's stuff and we start promoting other people that are similar to us, that is going to be a world of difference. You don't want to like partner with copycat businesses. Don't get me wrong. Like if I was a ghostwriter and you're a ghostwriter, like it would not be a good partnership. But if you're a copywriter and I'm a ghostwriter, then it's a good partnership because we can supplement each other. Stuff like that. And it's the
Yeah,
same
it's
way
that
with
together we rise kind of mentality.
yeah.
And I think that's so important. I honestly, I think that this is where the world is going. And I mean, I'm woo woo as hell. And so, like I'm sitting here like, because Pluto's in Aquarius and blah, blah, blah. But like more than that, people are so fatigued by this super capitalistic hierarchical way of being and doing, and like within industry, within marketing, within systems. Like we're just tired of it as like a collective um society. And so I think that's so powerful in like emphasizing the importance of doing the thing,
Mm-hmm.
because we're in this thing. Companies see that consumers want this inclusivity. They want things to be accessible because so many basic things are so fucking hard now. And so they make this like, like during Pride, it's rainbow washing, right? They'll
Yeah.
sit there and give you all the Pride stuff to get money from you, but then they won't actually support any queer businesses or policies or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it can be like mirrored so much in inclusion, in basic connection, like you said, just like simply like connecting to grow the industry, because like when the industry grows, you all win. So why
Yeah.
aren't you doing it? So when it comes to your you know addressing those type of things, what kind of like, what about like with any of your students or anything like that? Have they had like specific like mindset hurdles that you've had to like get them through?
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting now that we've started traveling the country because you meet more people. But what I've learned is there's two types of people that come to like clinics or coaching or any of that stuff. There is the people who like it's like Ryan from The Office, right? Like I want to be led, but only when I'm in the mood to be led, but not bossed around kind of deal. So you have to like weave this huge like mind path
You got to
to
be
like
Gandalf
make
stepping
it
in.
yeah, you have to make it all their idea. And that's how a lot of people like to teach because they don't want to be like rude. But then there are the people who won't listen if you do that. They absolutely won't listen. Everything you try and tell them goes straight over their heads. So then you have to be like, hey, you're not doing it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm not? You're like, no, like, you have to do this. If you don't do this, we don't go anywhere. And then, so there's like two types of people, right? If you play the mind game, some people appreciate that and other people won't. And then there are people that you have to talk to super direct, which isn't being rude. It's just a matter of like, if you're not 100% direct, they're not going to hear you.
Hmm.
Um, and so I found that
I'm
we've
trying
had to
to
have,
determine which one are the more neurodivergent people, because
I
I'm sitting here like I
know.
think maybe the direct one might be us like neurospicy people who are like, hey, focus, we're doing this, okay.
Yeah, and it's tough because I feel like I can it depends on like the day even for me. I feel like it
Yeah.
muddles around. But I found that like with your messaging, coaching, interacting with people, you have to speak on both terms. If you only speak on one, you're
Mm.
missing out on the other side of the market. Um, and that's kind of what we found with like that example with the media team. It wasn't until we were like, you're not doing your job, that they were like, oh, whoops. It wasn't this whole like, hey, you should come talk to why'd you put your trailer there? Like, none of that stuff's gonna work until you go, you're not doing your job. Shout out the people who shout you out. Like, it depends as you interact with people who might have a rough mindset. Like, I've had a ton of people be like, $7, because I have a product that's $7, and part of the scheme is part of the messaging is like, I don't make money off of a $7 product, because you don't, right? You got to pay the
Right.
website and the electronics and the bill and all that stuff. But people are like, wake up, people! $7 times by 100,000 is $700,000. She'll be rich. This is all a scheme, and it's like, obviously, you don't understand how business. Like, I typed out a message. I was like, that's not how business works. I have the website that I have to
Yeah.
pay for, the course I have to pay for, the electric bill, the Wi-Fi, and all this stuff. So I'm actually netting zero, which is the whole point. And I got to run the ad. And all of a sudden, you do that, and people are like, oh, and then they buy your stuff. It's weird.
Yeah, and I mean that comes down to, we've been trained to be employees, right? And so whenever we just see things as like that hourly rate. Right.
Yeah.
And so like they're seeing $7. Gosh, that's minimum wage in some places. If she gets this every minute, like this is that huge amount of money, right? And um just seeing it as like an employee's standpoint and not seeing it as like this is a business. Like it's multifaceted. And that's one of the things that I know a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with in mindset wise, is to leave this employee mindset, to leave this idea of like, okay, well, if this piece of copy takes me 1 hour, to do, I'm making this much an hour, like, golly, I can't charge $50 an hour, if it only takes me 1 hour to do, and stuff like that. And then you have to shift to, this is a value. You're
Yeah.
charging based off the value, because somebody who works in as any sort of writer, right, and they have this level of expertise, that blog post or whatever is going to take them this amount of time to do, and it's going to be fucking fantastic, versus somebody who's newer and still learning and growing, that's going to take them this much time to do, and it's not going to be quite as good. And so like you can't charge by hour, because then the newbie is going to be making 4 times the amount as the expert, but the expert's going to have better quality work. And so like for a lot of my copy coaching clients, that's one of the first like mindset hurdles that they have to go get over, is realizing you're charging based off of your knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and your expertise and the value it brings to the company. Because obviously a sales page brings a whole lot more money in than a blog post, even if word by word, like even if like the length per word matches.
Yeah.
So, like, do you guys have anything like that in your industry that just like is like this big mind fuck that like your motorsports entrepreneurs like just struggle with?
The biggest mindfuck for motorsport entrepreneurs is, I'm nobody. Nobody
Oh.
cares about me. I don't do anything. I don't win. Like, I don't have followers. I don't have any of the, like, they're stuck in the, I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't, blah, blah, blah. Because they're so busy looking at, like, the top racers in the world and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the millions and millions and millions of dollars that they bring in. And they're like, well, they have all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but somebody had to take a chance on them before they had all that stuff. So why did they take a chance on them?
Well, and also like a lot of times, with athletes and things like that, like their coaches have never even competed. Like there's so
Yeah,
many places where the coach is just really good at teaching it and really good at, helping people hone their skills,
exactly.
and that's their bag. And so it's just like, so if you had Shaquille O'Neal's coach teaching you how to play basketball, but they had never once played a professional game, like, would you seriously be there questioning Shaquille O'Neal's coach? And it's like
Yeah.
same type of thing, but people get stuck in that mindset cuz like that's what the industry has taught them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking like, cuz we talked a bit about marketing and stuff here. Um and like the connection and stuff like that. How have you changed how people communicate either with gaining sponsors or how you communicate with the people to attract them to your companies and stuff like that? How have you like because I know you worked in marketing for a while too,
Mm-hmm.
like what is your big shift in your communication and why?
Easy. So when I first started reaching out to sponsors, I actually stumbled across a message I sent like 4 years ago, and I instead of because I was gonna write a sponsorship pitch to Fox MX, they make gear, and I opened up the chat and I saw that I had already sent them a sponsorship message from 4 years ago, and instead of writing a sponsorship pitch, I wrote an apology. Um, because it literally said like, "Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm really hoping to race this year, and I love your gear. The colors are really great, and I would really appreciate it if you could send me some stuff." Like it was straight up like, "I'm doing this thing." And I like your stuff, so please do it for free. That's like, Lauren, if I approached you and I said, "Lauren, I'm doing this thing with my business. It's going to be really epic. Please build my website for free."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, that's such a great like example of what I call is low cuz I'm a massive nerd if you haven't noticed. I call it Loki copy. Like no shade on Loki. He is my deity man. Like he is my favorite Marvel character. Like that's my boy, but like it's like that your savior is here, like
Yeah.
come worship me, like I'm amazing, give me all of your money. And so many new entrepreneurs and small businesses like that's the vibe. Like that's what they're giving. And it it's a lot of times just like great, so what's in it for them?
Yeah. So as the story goes, I walked into this business and I had this like beautiful idea in mind, right? I race motorcycles. What do cool motorcycles need? A great paint job. This is like 5 years ago. I was probably like 19-ish. Um, had no idea what I was doing. Broke college student, couldn't afford anything. Walked into this company who does vinyl wrapping for cars. They had won like 5 international shows year after year after year of craftsmanship. I don't know. Because I was so invested in the company that I did zero research because I didn't care. I wanted a cool
You
wrap
just
on my
like give me
motorcycle.
money.
Exactly.
Give me
I
free
thought,
shit.
yeah, I thought to myself, if they gave my motorcycle a cool wrap, and then I showed up at the racetrack, the other racers would be like, "Damn, look at that bike. Where did you get that done? Like, tell me all about it. I want to go there." So that's what I told them. I was like, "Listen, if I win a whole bunch of races with a bike that you guys painted, everybody's going to want an amazing paint job, just like the one that you gave me." And he looked me stone cold in the eyes and he goes, "Catherine, I hate working on motorcycles. I lose money working on motorcycles. You know what I do make money on? Fleets of vehicles. So how are you gonna help me get fleets of vehicles in my business?" And I was like,
The lightning has
you know,
struck.
it was the first time a business had like given me a reason outside of like, "Well, that's great. What does that do for me?" Because every time I had heard, "What does that do for me?" I was like, "Didn't you just hear? Like, I'm gonna go win a bunch of races, and people are gonna ask me where I got your stuff done, and then they're gonna come to you. Like, that's what you're gonna get out of it." But he said, like, "How am I gonna get fleets of vehicles? Where are you gonna find them?" And I was like, "I think some of the racers at the racetrack like run their own businesses." I was like, I think so." And he's like, "Okay, but can I come to the racetrack with you if I do this?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, because that means I get the rap." And I'm like, "It's gonna be awesome. He's gonna see me race. He's gonna like do all this stuff. He's gonna see how epic I am." And I never saw him once at the racetrack. He didn't know I made it on the I got a radio interview. I got like 3 podiums that day. that he came and all that stuff. He was too busy walking around the pits, introducing himself, handing out his business card, and asking people about themselves. He never once promoted his business. He led off with like, "That's a nice bike. What is it? I'm just starting to get into motorcycles. I don't know anything about it. Like, tell me about your bike. Tell me about what you do. What's your job?" And then after he asks, "What's your job?" they'll be like, "Oh, what's your job?" And be like, I just wrap vehicles to prevent weather corrosion and help brands build a better identity." And then he just hand them their card and he just walk away. And that was it. And that was when I realized, like, it doesn't matter what your results are. It doesn't matter what your social media following is. None of that stuff. What matters is what they care about. And you don't know what they care about if you don't ask.
Yes.
And then the other token to that is like, it's never about you. It's about them. And one of the things that I've been really pushing lately is if I have a problem, it's if my audience has a problem. So like this morning, just before I jumped on this chat for reaching out to sponsors now, my new thing I do is I send out a survey once a year. And it just has basic questions like, what brands do you use the most? Like, what are some issues you struggle with when it comes to motorsports? And something that came up a lot, because I've kind of shifted my audience and my goal, my story now. It's not so much about getting women confident in riding. That's still a goal. But my new goal is like, I just came off of a lot of hormone therapy. So I'm struggling with a lot of like breakouts. My hair is getting weird. Like I'm now an elite athlete with a cycle. Like I don't know what to do with all this stuff that's happening inside my body. So like I start asking other women, I'm like, what are some issues you're having as it pertains to like your cycle when you're training, or like breakouts, hair care, all that stuff. And I found out that 73% of women get painful breakouts if they train for more than 2 days in a row when it comes to riding, because their helmet's all nasty. It's all full of sweat. So just this morning, I found a skincare brand that doesn't use any harsh chemicals, is 100% vegan, and it's a mushroom brand. For a company, like, partnership with a brand called Leaky Mushroom Moto Ranch, run by vegans, 100% all natural, like, skincare. And
like, how perfect is that alignment?
Exactly. So then I wrote them an email and I was like, hey, I just saw that you're looking for creators. My audience just said in a survey that they're really struggling with painful breakouts. And I specifically target like 100% green. Like I came from a packaging background and I handled green certifications. So I care about the chemicals and the environment. And I love that you're an all vegan brand and you're a mushroom brand. How better of a pairing is that to another mushroom brand, you know? And that's all I said. I didn't say anything about me. And I was like, here are some pictures of the rad lady groups we get together across the country. And that's where I left it. I didn't say anything about my race stats, my business, nothing. I was just like, this is what my audience is having issues with. I would love it if you could help me solve their problem.
Yes. I wore my mushroom shirt for you today, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's what it's about, you know? Yeah. It's like, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yes. And that is so, like, I know that that's one thing that we've talked with your, you know, when I've come in and done like the workshops and stuff with your students is talking about like understanding your audience. Like, how can you communicate properly to somebody if you don't know what the heck they care about? If you don't know what they're about, who they are, like, how can you make those connections and change those minds, right? To be like, no, I promise you, you can do this without a billion people in your social media, you know, like you can do this. And so how do you do that and convince them that there is another way and that's your way of things without actually first understanding them? And I think that is one part of marketing communication that falls short a lot and is really being noticed now, I think, because people are like, great, like, why do I care? Like, you're just trying to sell me. Like, people are able to, they're getting marketing at just such an insane rate. Consumers are being bombarded left and right with ads. So I don't remember the stat, but it's incredibly high versus where it was even in the 80s, you know, on how much we're getting bombarded with advertisements now. And so people are so savvy to identify this like buy now kind of sleazy way of marketing and stuff. And so like making that connection and learning and understanding your audience as an entrepreneur or business owner, like that's so vital. And I know one of the big mindset shifts you've helped your people in your coaching program create is like that entrepreneur mindset when they're sitting here like, well, I'm just a racer, I'm just a rider, I just want to ride and I want people to just sponsor me for riding. And you're having to like teach them how to have that business mindset of it is like, no, you're not just a writer, you're an entrepreneur with this, and getting people to shift their mind from I'm just a writer to like, I'm a motorsports entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So
tough.
well,
It's
I
not
mean, it's
for
a big
everyone.
shift. It's a
Yeah.
big shift, you know, and like it's also kind of a long, rough journey too for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people to like overcome that mindset hurdle, and you have to kind of like do a lot of work. Like it's
Yeah.
a lot of work to start a business and stuff, even as a a rider or a racer.
Yeah, so I've been having an issue lately. Well, it's been an issue from the start where every once in a great blue moon I'll get a rider who is like I don't have a story, right? They consistently push this whole like I don't have a story, nothing bad ever happened to me. And when I say like you've got to have a story, you've just got to have something relatable that people can kind of like pair up with. They can say like, yeah, I totally get that. I felt that too. And I always say it doesn't have to be something that's written on your gravestone. Like it doesn't have to be this huge, big, crazy event. But I used to really struggle with those people who were like, I don't have a story. Nothing cool ever happened to me. Like I've just been writing since I was a kid and I love it. And that's it. Like I don't care about changing the world or changing the industry, any of that stuff. I just want to race because I like racing. And just the other day, Nick Hannon, my mom had a David Goggins book in her bookcase, and I'm not like super in love with the guy. I don't necessarily like like David Goggins, but he had a couple of good points when I was reading through his book. One of the points that really stuck out to me was that he said, is the thing holding you back that you've had so much comfort in your life that you don't know what it's like to actually work for something. And I think now that I have that point, that all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I see all of those people who are like, I've just been writing since I was a kid. I just want to race because I race. It's like their story is that they have to figure out how to work for something. Because yeah, they might have been born into the sport as a really good rider, but if they want to be the best, they have to work for it. And not a lot of people want to work for it. So if they're there truly to work for it, they have to learn how to work for it. And that alone is its own story.
Yeah.
And that comes back to entrepreneurship too, because I know I'm victim to it. I know that my mom loves me and supports me and told me not to get a job when I got fired because I was a motorsports athlete and I was too hard to place, even though they did a whole bunch of like publicity stuff with me. And like they told me I was never gonna get a job in motorsports. My mom was like, Catherine, don't get another job. Like, we'll help you. You just do the thing. And I know that that is a luxury that not everyone gets, and I'm extremely grateful for it. But I know that that also holds me back too. Like, especially as I'm trying to train for like the only world recognized race in the United States. It's an international race in the United States. Um, Nick and I just had a whole conversation about how I'm scared to suffer. Because I've never suffered before, and I don't want to go for 6-hour bicycle rides, and I don't want to do the training that's necessary for me to do good in this race because I've never had to do it before.
Right.
And this is where we get into that, like, talking about it and doing it are two different things. Talking about doing the race versus doing the training to do the race, two different things. If I'm not doing the training, then I can't talk about doing the race.
Yeah, and that really also speaks so much to a point of privilege because as white women, we have privilege that a lot of the world doesn't have. You
Mm-hmm.
know, as people growing up in the United States, we have a privilege that a lot of people don't have. And in one aspect, like we haven't gained that grit that so many people who have more resistance in getting to where we are currently at, like they have a level of grit that like maybe we don't have yet. But also like it comes out to like this level of responsibility, like because you've had like this natural ease, like how are you supporting the people who have had so many more obstacles? And for you, I know that's like giving more access for people across the board to get into this industry and to have that moment on the top of the mountain like you had, and to overcome these obstacles and stuff, and using your privilege that you've been able to have to where you have all of this incredible knowledge at your very young age, that you're like, great, let's share it with the world, let's everybody have this knowledge, which is amazing, and I love it. So before we wrap up, Catherine, why don't you tell everybody where to find you? We will also leave everything in the show notes so you can follow her on absolutely everything. And so go ahead, tell the people all your stuff.
Well, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at captain, like a ship captain, boat captain, dot, like a period, Hurley, Hurley. Yes, like the clothing brand. Yes, I was born before the clothing brand, so they actually named the brand after me. And then also the business is Leaky Mushroom Moto Ranch on Instagram. We don't have a TikTok, but we are on Facebook. And then for the website, so that you can see all of the things, you can buy the book that I wrote, because I wrote a book, which is really fun. Or the courses on branding and marketing and partnerships is all at leakymushroom.com. You have to put the www in front of it, though, for some reason. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I don't know why. And then that's also where you'll find our clinic stuff and our tours if you want to check out where we do all of our coaching, because it's everywhere. And we host people in Southern California too during the winter for training as well. So all of the things.
All of the things. Okay, we will have all of that information in the show notes so you can go and find all of her magic. So thank you all for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, review, do all the things. Your support is life-giving. And most importantly, remember that words are powerful. So go out there, make some magic, and let's start a revolution.
Heck yeah.